the trees and the axe. A man came into a forest and made a petition to the trees to provide him a handle for his axe. The trees consented to his request and gave him a young ash tree. No sooner had the man fitted from it a new handle to his axe than he began to use it and quickly felled with his strokes the noblest giants of the forest. An old oak, lamenting when too late the destruction of his companions, said to a neighboring cedar, "The first step has lost us all. If we had not given up the rights of the ash, we might yet have retained our own privileges and have stood for ages. In yielding the rights of others, we may endanger our own." The Seaside Travelers. Some travelers, journeying along the seashore, climbed to the summit of a tall cliff, and from thence, looking over the sea, saw in the distance what they thought was a large ship, and waited in the hope of seeing it enter the harbor. But as the object on which they looked was driven by the wind nearer to the shore, they found that it could at the most be a small boat and not a ship. When, however, it reached the beach, they discovered that it was only a large faggot of sticks, and one of them said to his companions, "We have waited for no purpose, for after all there is nothing to see but a faggot." Our mere anticipations of life outrun its realities. The Seagull and the Kite. A seagull, who was more at home swimming on the sea than walking on the land, was in the habit of catching live fish for its food. One day, having bolted down too large a fish, it burst its deep gullet bag and lay down on the shore to die. A kite, seeing him and thinking him a land bird like itself, exclaimed, "You richly deserve your fate, for a bird of the air has no business to seek its food from the sea." Every man should be content to mind his own business.
The Monkey and the Camel. The beasts of the forest gave a splendid entertainment, at which the monkey stood up and danced. Having vastly delighted the assembly, he sat down amidst universal applause. The camel, envious of the praises bestowed on the monkey, and desirous to divert to himself the favor of the guests, proposed to stand up in his turn and dance for their amusement. He moved about in so very ridiculous a manner that the beasts, in a fit of indignation, set upon him with clubs and drove him out of the assembly. It is absurd to ape our betters. The Rat and the Elephant. A rat, traveling on the highway, met a huge elephant, bearing his royal master and his suite, and also his favorite cat and dog, and parrot and monkey. The great beast and his attendants were followed by an admiring crowd, taking up all of the road. "What fools you are," said the rat to the people, "to make such a hubbub over an elephant. Is it his great bulk that you so much admire? It can only frighten little boys and girls, and I can do that as well. I am a beast, as well as he, and have as many legs and ears and eyes. He has no right to take up all the highway, which belongs as much to me as to him." At this moment the cat spied the rat, and, jumping to the ground, soon convinced him that he was not an elephant. Because we are like the great in one respect, we must not think we are like them in all.
The Fisherman Piping. A fisherman skilled in music took his flute and his nets to the seashore. Standing on a projecting rock, he played several tunes in the hope that the fish, attracted by his melody, would of their own accord dance into his net, which he had placed below. At last, having long waited in vain, he laid aside his flute, and casting his net into the sea, made an excellent haul.
The Wolf and the House Dog. A wolf, meeting with a big, well-fed mastiff, having a wooden collar about his neck, inquired of him who it was that fed him so well, and yet compelled him to drag that heavy log about wherever he went. "The master," he replied. "Then," said the wolf, "may no friend of mine ever be in such a plight, for the weight of this chain is enough to spoil the appetite. Nothing can compensate us for the loss of our liberty." The Eagle and the Kite. An eagle, overwhelmed with sorrow, sat upon the branches of a tree in company with a kite. "Why," said the kite, "do I see you with such a rueful look?" "I seek," she replied, "for a mate suitable for me, and am not able to find one." "Take me," returned the kite. "I am much stronger than you are." "Why, are you able to secure the means of living by your plunder?" "Well, I have often caught and carried away an ostrich in my talons." The eagle, persuaded by these words, accepted him as her mate. Shortly after the nuptials, the eagle said, "Fly off and bring me back the ostrich you promised me." The kite, soaring aloft into the air, brought back the shabbiest possible mouse. "Is this," said the eagle, "the faithful fulfillment of your promise to me?" The kite replied, "That I might attain to your royal hand, there is nothing that I would not have promised, however much I knew that I must fail in the performance." Promises of a suitor must be taken with caution.
The dogs and the hides. Some dogs, famished with hunger, saw some cowhides steeping in a river. Not being able to reach them, they agreed to drink up the river, but it fell out that they burst themselves with drinking long before they reached the hides. Attempt not impossibilities. The Fisherman and the Little Fish. A fisherman who lived on the produce of his nets one day caught a single small fish as the result of his day's labor. The fish, panting convulsively, thus entreated for his life. "O sir, what good can I be to you? And how little am I worth? I am not yet come to my full size. Pray spare my life and put me back into the sea. I shall soon become a large fish, fit for the tables of the rich, and then you can catch me again and make a handsome profit of me." The fisherman replied, "I should be a very simple fellow if I were to forego my certain gain for an uncertain profit." The Donkey and his Purchaser. A man wished to purchase a donkey, and agreed with its owner that he should try him before he bought him. He took the donkey home, and put him in the straw yard with his other asses, upon which he left all the others, and joined himself at once to the most idle and the greatest eater of them all. The man put a halter on him, and led him back to his owner, saying, "I do not need a trial. I know that he will be just such another as the one whom he chose for his companion." A man is known by the company he keeps.
Hey, the shepherd and the sheep. A shepherd, driving his sheep to a wood, saw an oak of unusual size, full of acorns, and, spreading his cloak under the branches, he climbed up into the tree and shook down the acorns. The sheep, eating the acorns, frayed and tore the cloak. The shepherd, coming down, and seeing what was done, said, "Oh, you most ungrateful creatures! You provide wool to make garments for all other men, but you destroy the clothes of him who feeds you. The basest ingratitude is that which injures those who serve us." The Fox and the Crow. A crow, having stolen a bit of flesh, perched in a tree and held it in her beak. A fox, seeing her, longed to possess himself of the flesh, and by a wily stratagem succeeded. "How handsome is the crow," he exclaimed, "in the beauty of her shape and in the fairness of her complexion. Oh, if her voice were only equal to her beauty, she would deservedly be considered the queen of birds." This he said deceitfully, having greater admiration for the meat than for the crow. But the crow, all her vanity aroused by the cunning flattery, and anxious to refute the reflection cast upon her voice, set up a loud caw and dropped the flesh. The fox quickly picked it up, and thus addressed the crow, "My good crow, your voice is right enough, but your wit is wanting. He who listens to flattery is not wise, for it has no good purpose."
The Swallow and the Crow. The swallow and the crow had a contention about their plumage. The crow put an end to the dispute by saying, "Your feathers are all very well in the spring, but mine protect me against the winter. Fine weather friends are not worth much."
The Hen and the Golden Eggs. A cottager and his wife had a hen, which laid every day a golden egg. They supposed that it must contain a great lump of gold in its inside, and killed it in order that they might get it. When, to their surprise, they found that the hen differed in no respect from their other hens. The foolish pair, thus hoping to become rich all at once, deprived themselves of the gain of which they were day by day assured.
The Old Man and Death. An old man was employed in cutting wood in the forest, and in carrying the faggots into the city for sale. One day, being very wearied with his long journey, he sat down by the wayside, and, throwing down his load, besought Death to come. Death immediately appeared, in answer to his summons, and asked for what reason he had called him. And the old man replied, "That lifting up the load you may place it again upon my shoulders." We do not always like to be taken at our word. The Fox and the Leopard. The fox and the leopard disputed which was the more beautiful of the two. The leopard exhibited one by one the various spots which decorated his skin. The fox, interrupting him, said, "And how much more beautiful than you am I, who am decorated not in body, but in mind." People are not to be judged by their coats. The mountain in labor. A mountain was once greatly agitated. Loud groans and noises were heard, and crowds of people came from all parts to see what was the matter. While they were assembled in anxious expectation of some terrible calamity, out came a mouse. Don't make much ado about nothing.
The Bear and the Two Travelers. Two men were traveling together when a bear suddenly met them on their path. One of them climbed up quickly into a tree and concealed himself in the branches. The other, seeing that he must be attacked, fell flat on the ground, and when the bear came up and felt him with his snout and smelt him all over, he held his breath and feigned the appearance of death as much as he could. The bear soon left him, for it is said he will not touch a dead body. When he was quite gone, the other traveler descended from the tree and, accosting his friend, jocularly inquired what it was the bear had whispered in his ear. His friend replied, "He gave me this advice: never travel with a friend who deserts you at the approach of danger." Misfortune tests the sincerity of friends. The Sick Kite. A kite, sick unto death, said to his mother, "O mother, do not mourn, but at once invoke the gods that my life may be prolonged." She replied, "Alas, my son, which of the gods do you think will pity you? Is there one whom you have not outraged by filching from their very altars a part of the sacrifice which had been offered up to them?" We must make friends in prosperity if we would have their help in adversity.
The Wolf and the Crane. A wolf, having a bone stuck in his throat, hired a crane for a large sum to put her head into his throat and draw out the bone. When the crane had extracted the bone and demanded the promised payment, the wolf, grinning and grinding his teeth, exclaimed, "Why, you have surely already a sufficient recompense in having been permitted to draw out your head in safety from the mouth and jaws of a wolf. In serving the wicked, expect no reward, and be thankful if you escape injury for your pains." The Cat and the Rooster. A cat caught a rooster, and took counsel with himself how he might find a reasonable excuse for eating him. He accused him as being a nuisance to men by crowing in the night time, and not permitting them to sleep. The rooster defended himself by saying that he did this for the benefit of men, that they might rise betimes for their labors. The cat replied, "Although you abound in specious apologies, I shall not remain supperless," and he made a meal of him. It is no good to deny those who make false accusations knowingly.